Hello and welcome to Cello Tuesdays. I'm Diane Chaplin, coming to you from Siena, Italy, with a program called In Italia. I'm here for the summer. This is my house. I'm really in the middle of the city in Siena, and so I've got the windows closed despite the fact that it's 95 degrees outside, and I don't have any fans on because they make a lot of noise. But I'll apologize in advance if you hear sirens going by or dogs barking or crowds, the rumor of the noise of crowds outside. I'm not going to do any editing, so it's going to be what it is here in the middle of the city. I'm going to play works by 4 Italian composers, and I'm going to start with one by Francesco Paolo Cipriani. Cipriani was a Baroque composer, and there's not a lot of solo cello music from the Baroque time outside the Bach suites. There's a few things, but so it's really wonderful to have these 12 toccatas by an Italian Baroque composer. I'm going to play 3 of those toccatas today. Cipriani lived in the late Baroque time. He lived until 1753, which is kind of the borderline between Baroque and classical. He lived in Naples, in Napoli, and he was a cellist as well as composer. He wrote some pedagogical material as well as these 12 toccatas. One thing you'll notice, particularly in the first toccata, is what we kind of think of as Italian Baroque string playing, like Vivaldi, who is basically the most famous Italian Baroque composer. You'll hear sort of lots of running notes and passages that sound a lot like Vivaldi might have written them. So these are 3 toccatas, not necessarily planned to be played together in their original writing, but I think they make a lovely little sonata together. 3 toccatas by Francesco Cipriani. Those were three toccatas by Francesco Cipriani. The next composer is Lucio Franco Amanti, and he is also a cellist and composer. Actually, of the four composers I'm going to play today, three of them are cellist composers. And I think that's very interesting because this is an idea that really kind of fell out of practice during the 20th century. The idea that performers were composers as well and would perform their own music. And in the romantic and I think 20th century areas, composers became specialists in being composers and weren't necessarily instrumentalists who were composing music specifically for their own performance. And I think it's wonderful that we are seeing a lot of the new cello music that's being written is written by cellist composers. So this is Lucio Amanti. He was born actually in Canada, in Montreal, to Italian parents who moved back to Italy when he was very young. And he grew up here. I think he lives in Hamburg now. When he was studying at Indiana University with Janos Starker, he became very interested in jazz and improvisation. And so his mission now is to combine classical and jazz aesthetics and kind of make a new form that is this mix of the two. And I think it's really successful. I think it creates just really, really interesting music. So this jazz suite that he wrote has 6 movements. I'm actually only going to play 4 of them today, but it's totally based on the Bach unaccompanied cello suites, which have 6 movements. And in fact, some of the movements are the same titles: Prelude, Allemande, Courante, Sarabande. And then the last 2 movements he gives different names. So I'm going to play the Prelude and the Allemande, which are very much in the style of preludes from Bach suites. You'll hear rolling arpeggios. The Allemande is really leisurely, kind of walking pace. And then instead of, in the 5th movement, which I'm going to play 5th and 6th movements also, instead of what would normally be a minuet, a bourrée, or a gavotte, here we have groove 1 and groove 2. And then the last movement, by now he's totally thrown out the Bach movement titles. The last movement's called Finale, Latin, Moto Perpetuo. And a moto perpetuo is a piece in which there's constant fast notes. And I think you will hear the Latin feeling in that one. So this is 4 movements from Jazz Suite, written in 2010 by Lucio Amanti. That was 4 movements from Jazz Suite by Lucio Amanti. Next, we're going to move to Florence, Firenze, which is very close to Siena. It's about an hour away, for a piece by Carlotta Ferrari, which was written in 2020. This is a piece originally for violin. It is called Passing and Glassing, and it's based on a poem by the English Romantic poet Cristina Rossetti, who does obviously have an Italian name. Her family was Italian and they moved to England before she was born. So she was born and raised in England, despite her very Italian sounding name. She lived until 1894, so definitely 19th century romantic. And I'm going to read the poem for you that the piece is based on. And I think you'll notice that it's a little bit, we might call it trite in its rhyming scheme now because it's English romantic poetry. But I think the sentiments it conveys are certainly universal for universal time. It's about women getting older, basically. I'll just say it that way. It's about an aging woman. All things that pass are woman's looking glass. They show her how her bloom must fade, and she herself be laid with withered roses in the shade. With withered roses and the fallen peach, unlovely, out of reach of summer joy that was. All things that pass are woman's tiring glass. The faded lavender is sweet, sweet, the dead violet, culled and laid by and cared for yet. The dried up violets and dried lavender, still sweet, may comfort her, nor need she cry, alas. All things that pass are wisdom's looking glass, being full of hope and fear, and still brimful of good or ill, according to our work and will. For there is nothing new beneath the sun, our doings have been done, and that which shall be was. This is Passing and Glassing by Carlotta Ferrari. All things that pass, a woman's looking glass. They show her how her bloom must fade, fade. And she herself be laid with withered roses, with withered roses. In the shade, with withered roses and the fallen peach, unlovely, out of reach of summer joy that was. All things that pass are a woman's tiring glass. The faded lavender is sweet. Sweet the dead violet, culled and laid by and cared for yet. The dried up violets and dried lavender, still sweet, may comfort her. Nor need she cry, alas! All things that pass are a wisdom's looking glass, being full of hope. And fear! And still, brim full of good or ill. According to our work and will. For there is nothing new beneath the sun. Our doings have been done, and that which shall be was. That was Passing and Glassing by Carlotta Ferrari, based on a poem by Cristina Rossetti. So the last work on the program is by Giovanni Sollima. If you've been paying attention to my live streams, 2 months ago I did an all Sollima program, but it didn't include this piece, which is called Alone. It was written in 1998 in Palermo, Sollima's native town, and it was one of his earlier kind of big pieces for unaccompanied cello. He is a cellist and composer, and in fact, he's kind of my Italian cello hero at this point. It's been kind of fun to be in Italy and seeing notice of him, not here in Siena, but in other places in Italy. And he is a really, really active solo cellist, and claims to be the most widely performed Italian composer right now, which is maybe kind of true because so many cellists are playing his work. He has several things that he likes to put in his work. He likes to expand the possibilities of what the cello can do, so there's always some kind of unusual extended techniques. In the opening section, for instance, it basically sounds like a trio. There are 3 separate lines going on at once. He likes to use asymmetrical meters a lot, so things are not paced evenly, particularly the beat pattern changes constantly, and actually in the middle, in the fast section, there's something that kind of sounds Balkan in its beat patterns, some very complicated beat patterns going on there. And the other thing is he really likes to repeat, so you'll hear different sections happening more than once. Things will come back. This is Alone by Giovanni Sollima. Vanessa Lima's Alone, and a program of Italian music coming to you from Siena, Italy. I did pre-record this program because I didn't want to be up between 3:30 and 4:30 in the morning playing it live, but I started at 6:30 p.m. here in Siena, which is the time that the broadcast always starts in Portland. Next month, whenever the first Tuesday of September is, will be a program called Revisiting the Baroque, which includes a really great piece also based on Bach cello suites by Natalie Clauda, which it has an Indian, so it's sort of combination Bach cello suites and Indian raga music. It's really great, and other pieces that are influenced by the Baroque. So I hope I see you then. Bye.